Honestly, at this point, I'm actually embarrassed to be a Spurs fan, to be associated with Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. It has been 2 weeks since we won the Europa League final. This should be the best time to be a Spurs fan in my life. And the first few days, the first week absolutely was, but then it has just fallen into silence and into no communication from the club and into just a time where all Tottenham fans are in complete, I don't know, like a complete malaise because we do not know what is going on at the club. We have no idea. And we watch the other clubs jump ahead of us, making signings. Manchester United, Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea making 3 or 4 signings already. Meanwhile, absolute silence from Daniel Levy. All we hear, Donna Cullen has left. Possibly something going on with the other board member. As far as I'm concerned, this absolute AWOL that has happened from the football club in the last 2 weeks must be because there is some kind of huge boardroom upheaval happening, by which I mean investment, takeover, maybe even the possibility, as some reports have said, that Daniel Levy's future may be up in the air. But as far as I'm concerned, even if that is the case, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if it's not, and we just hear that he's going to carry on swanning along. But even if that was the case, why would it be happening right now? Why would it be happening at the beginning of a summer? That is mismanagement. Daniel Levy, even if he were to be leaving the club, should be setting up the future of the club in a way where it just continues. But instead, we have 2 weeks of utter nothing. And this wouldn't obviously be affecting us in the same way if it weren't for the fact that we all know that it's most likely that Ange Postecoglou is going to be sacked. Ange Postecoglou knows. And yes, I'm still holding on to some vague hope that he may get to keep his job and get another chance at it and get to change the priorities back to the league and show that he can get us back up into that kind of top 4, top 5 reckoning. But I think we all know that because of this time that has gone along, what is happening is Daniel Levy is saying, I need to make the Spurs fans' excitement and happiness die down. How wrong is that? How appalling is that? The idea that we've won the first European trophy in 41 years. We've won our first trophy in 17 years. We've done the thing that we've all been crying out for. We've done the thing that we've all had a go at Daniel Levy, the chairman, for not doing. And his instinct afterwards is to find a way to make our excitement die down so that then he can choose the right time for him to fire the manager so that it doesn't look as bad on him. How bad is that? And listen, I'll put my hand up. I've been the first one to say I'm not Levy out. I'm not ENIC out. It's not as simple as that. I'm not Levy in or ENIC in either. I want to know what the replacements are. I want to know what it looks like. I don't particularly want to be run by a petro-state. I don't want to be cheating constantly like City, like Chelsea, and even to the point where the likes of Aston Villa are getting to, where they're cheating the rules and then just paying off settlements at the end with UEFA. I don't want my club to be like that. I like the fact that we run sustainably. But what I hate is these decisions that Levy constantly makes that optically are so appalling for the club. And it's winding me up. I'm sure you can tell. It is winding me up right now that Daniel Levy is trying to basically pull the wool over our eyes so that he can shoot our dog in the head, put the dog down in a way where we're not going to be as upset as we would be if it was 2 weeks ago. Listen, I think one of the biggest problems with Levy and ENIC down the years is that he hasn't understood how intelligent football fans are and how we know what's going on. We know how the industry works. We know how football people work. We've been watching football and these people all of our lives, in my case, for over 35 years. Don't try and pull the wool over my eyes. If you've made the decision to sack the manager, you sack him the day after and you say, sorry fans, but 17th wasn't acceptable. And I will live and die by my decision. The way he did, to be fair, not that we liked it, when he sacked Martin Jol at half-time, or when he sacked Harry Redknapp after he got 4th in the league. But this time it's different because we've been crying out for the trophy. And he's been saying he wants a trophy. And what he's actually doing is, Daniel Levy, he's playing into the hands of all of those fans who say that Daniel Levy has never cared about trophies. He's only cared about the money. He's only cared about coming top 4. Yet he painted this picture after the final, in the parade, in his pre-match notes before the last game of the season, that is what he had been crying out for. And yet now, by leaving everything silent for 2 weeks and creating this malaise in the Tottenham community and basically, I'm afraid to say it, he has succeeded in what he's been looking to do, in my opinion, which is that we have all gone from, you cannot sack Ange Postecoglou, you've got to give him another chance, he won us the one thing we were looking for, the one thing that we've had the piss taken out of us by all other fans, especially Arsenal fans, over the last decades, we now have. So we all went from a point where we're like, well, you have to give Ange another chance, to now we are all like, when you listen to the podcast and you listen to people talking about it, respected journalists, respected fans, we all say, oh, my head is starting to overrule my heart. And that is because Daniel Levy has got what he wants. By using this time to get us to stop feeling so passionate, by just having complete radio silence, we've now gone back to, oh, well, we did lose 22 games. I just don't think you can afford to stand still in football. And like I said, we're being taken over by other clubs who finished miles ahead of us. Arsenal making signings. They finished 40 odd points ahead of us. Chelsea, going for this young talent that Tottenham should be utilising their position now of being in the Champions League to say, no, come to us. We will give you a place in the starting 11 straight away, like we did with Lucas Bergvall, like we did with Archie Gray. We are the place for the best young talent to come. But instead, we've just sat on our hands and done fuck all. And it's embarrassing. And I think it also comes from a place where Daniel Levy probably still expects the best deals to be done at the end of the summer. And how many managers have we had down the years who have been so angry at that? No, you've got to get your deals in early. You have to. You have to get all the players in there for the start of pre-season training, which is now the 4th of June. Pre-season will be in less than a month away. It'll be less than a month away now. It always starts at the beginning of July. Ange Postecoglou, meanwhile, is on a beach in Greece. I watched a brilliant documentary with him last night, an Australian documentary. Dig it out. It's on YouTube. And I really feel for him because he's got the club, the best interests of the club at heart. He did what he was asked to do. Champions League football, win a trophy. Now, sure, none of us would have expected it to happen the way it happened. But it did happen that way, and we had the best day of our lives in the final and at the parade. He has done what we asked him to do. And again, I'll put my hand up. I would still say there are problems with Ange Postecoglou. We can see the same goal all the time. His style has been found out. But if you watch that documentary, you'll see from all the way back when he was Australian manager, he says he never sits still. No formation that he uses will stay the same season after season. He's always tweaking. You cannot fail to evolve in football or you will die. And if Levy has a meeting with Ange Postecoglou, and maybe he has, but if he hasn't, he should, Ange Postecoglou will tell him that. And he'll say, this is what I'm going to do to make sure we're not going to concede the same goal time after time. And this is what I'm going to do to make Spurs a force again. And meanwhile, and I'll talk about them later in this episode, but there have been some quotes from Pedro Porro, who is right behind Ange Postecoglou. And clearly, if you saw at the parade with the players on that stage singing his song, they're behind him. QT Romero, all the links suggesting that he will not stay unless Ange Postecoglou stays. So I just think this 2 weeks has been an utter waste of time where what Daniel Levy could have done is got behind the manager. He could have utilised all that happiness and joy that we had where we all would have agreed, you can't sack the manager now, get behind him, get some signings going early, get the excitement even higher during the summer and go into next season with a feeling of genuine, we can do something here. Whereas instead he's let all of the air, Levy has let all the air out of the balloon, it feels like. I don't know, let me know what you think in the comments. Am I over-exaggerating? But just this morning I woke up just being like, I'm waiting for this announcement, which it feels like Levy is just, I guess what he's doing right now is interviewing other managers. We heard that he's interviewed Thomas Frank. He's probably interviewing other managers. Sure, that's due diligence, but we know it's happening. So even if it does get to a point where he keeps Ange Postecoglou, it really is like that Erik ten Hag situation. He's been completely undermined. I really think that. I just think it's really devastating and terrible management from Daniel Levy. Imagine being a staff member at Spurs at the moment. I don't just mean like one of Ange Postecoglou's staff. I mean a staff member at the whole club, just seeing that if you are successful, you might still lose your job. If you do what your stipulations were as part of your job, you still might lose your job. And also, not only will you probably lose it, but you'll be left in limbo before you hear about it, whilst they interview for other people. I just think it's disgusting. I think it's disgraceful. It's gone on too far now. And we all know, like I said, don't bullshit bullshitters, Daniel Levy. We all know what's going on. Everybody knows what's going on. Maybe Levy hoped that Ange would do the mic drop and resign. Well, he didn't. He wants to keep his job. He thinks there's a job to be done at Spurs where he can lift us, where he can take us to more silverware. And I believe him. He won us silverware. He found a way. He found a way. He showed he can evolve. So I believe he can evolve again. And if he doesn't evolve, and if we lose 3 on the spin in the first few games, sure, okay, he goes. But we still had that day. And that's how I feel right now. And like I said, you know, I've said before, I hold my hands up. I've said before, I'm not sure that Ange can do it in the Premier League, but he has shown me that he can evolve, so I think he deserves the chance. All right, guys, apologies for that 10-minute rant, but I had to get it off my chest. I promise you, when any announcement comes from Spurs, and like I said, I still expect an announcement that Ange Postecoglou will be sacked, and when that happens, I then expect a new manager to be announced very quickly because they will have lined it up like they did with Pochettino and Mourinho. As soon as it happens, I will go live on my YouTube channel when we hear the announcement, and we can all get in on the chat and talk about it. But I had to get that off my chest this morning. Before I go into some other Tottenham news, guys, if you haven't already, please do press like on this video. The more likes we get, the more it gets seen by other Spurs fans and other fans as well. And also, please, if you're not already a subscriber, please do press subscribe to my channel for daily Premier League during the transfer window. What I bring is Tottenham news, transfer talk, but always starting with Spurs, and then also the other Premier League transfer rumours. But this episode is going to be just about Spurs because, you know, like I said, I was just so wound up when I woke up this morning. I feel like I said, there's this malaise in the Tottenham community. We're not even watching or listening to each other's content much like we were the first few days after the Europa League win, because we're kind of waiting for this, like I said, like the putting down of the family pet. And I just think it's been done in a cynical, horrible way. And I think it's basically taking the piss out of Ange Postecoglou, and he deserves the exact opposite of that. He deserves to be lauded by the club right now. He deserved more than those petty few lines that he got from Daniel Levy in his pre-final game of the season programme notes. He should be lauded and appreciated and given another chance. Anyway, here is some of the Tottenham transfer talk and other news from yesterday. Big news coming out from Sam Wallace in The Telegraph that Son Heung-min could leave this summer as Spurs look to generate funds and reshape the squad ahead of the Champions League. Tottenham undoubtedly do need to do a lot of squad work. Sonny's game time, according to one rumour, is due to be heavily restricted next season if he stays at the club, as we look to usher in a new era and enable other players to take on greater responsibility. One rumour suggesting that might even include offering QT Romero the captain's armband. Now, that is something I did talk about in a YouTube short and TikTok video recently. I actually wouldn't mind Romero being offered the captain's armband. I think it's the kind of thing that could inspire him to really take the club by the scruff of the neck and show leadership. And he's done that in every single final he's been in. 5 finals, World Cup final, Copa America finals, Europa League finals. There was like whatever it's called, the Super Decima final, or whatever, the Euro winners versus the Copa America winners. And he's won them all. And I think it might be one way, if he doesn't leave this summer, it might be one way to get Romero to actually play more games, remain fit, not get suspended too often. So it's something I wouldn't mind. However, I'm not suggesting that I think Sonny should leave. What I'm saying, and I've stuck to this down the last few months, if Sonny was tempted by a new challenge somewhere and that club, wherever it was, offered the kind of money that Daniel Levy would accept, then I would wave Sonny off with my blessings. And then what I'd say is, after his career, if he wanted any kind of role at Tottenham Hotspur in the future, whatever he wanted, he should get it. Ambassadorial, coaching, whatever. But I still think Sonny has a lot to offer as a squad player this season, for sure. Maybe just not starting every single game, kind of managing his minutes as is suggested in this report, so that when he is on the pitch, he can play his absolute best. It is the Saudi Pro League who are interested in him once again. However, apparently he would need to be persuaded, having already rejected their advances in the past. It strikes me that with Bruno Fernandes having turned down the Saudi Pro League yesterday, and Man United, I think, really wanted that £100 million from them, they are now looking for another big face, and that is why they're turning their attention to Sonny. And maybe they would pay, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 million pounds for him. If they were going to pay 100 million for Bruno and he's 29, well, Sonny's 31, 32, but he is a far bigger global name and would be a far bigger coup for the Saudi Pro League than Bruno Fernandes. Okay, Tottenham are apparently trying to deal with their lack of number 6 options, and Sporting Lisbon midfielder Morten Hjulmand is high on their shortlist. Apparently, Sporting willing to consider offers between 40 and 50 million euros, so that's 30 to 40 million pounds for the Danish midfield enforcer. Obviously, we've done good business with Sporting before when we bought Pedro Porro off them. Marcus Edwards was there and we had to negotiate the sell-on clause in his contract. So he seems like the kind of player that could be interesting. I've seen a bit of him. He loves a slide tackle. He loves to get involved. Obviously, we've had a Danish enforcer before who a lot of fans got very frustrated with in the end in Pierre-Emil Højbjerg. So let's see what happens. But let me know what you guys think of Hjulmand. Is he someone you'd like to get in through the door? Latest reports from Mailsport are that Spurs will demand in excess of £60 million if they are willing to let Christian Romero go. I personally think that would be the minimum offer I would even countenance in a negotiation. If you think about what we paid for him, upwards of 40, this is a World Cup winner. This is a player who dragged us over the line in the Europa League final. This is a 2-times Copa America winner. He is the best of the best when it comes to centre-backs available on the market. He's not, in my opinion, at Virgil van Dijk level of quality, but he is at the next level down for sure, and he is utterly brilliant as a centre-half. And listen, if I only see it being Atletico or Real Madrid interested in him, and if they are genuinely interested, they're going to have to pay the money. Now, the usual stuff has started happening with players coming out through their agents and leaks, suggesting that they have turned down moves to Tottenham Hotspur. And I have to say, not to go back to my rant again, but I don't think it's helping us, this silence either, and lack of communication over what's going to happen in the management front when it comes to trying to get players in. So apparently, Mark Gahey is not interested in a move to Spurs. He has turned down a potential move to Spurs, as has Leroy Sané now as well. Now, I can't say that it's solely because they don't know who the manager is going to be, but it's not going to help, is it? And we all know that Ange Postecoglou, one of the things he's best at is making that phone call, talking to the players and making them believe that Spurs is the place to come for them. Well, you can bet your bottom dollar, considering the chairman's not talking to him, that he's probably not talking to any potential players on the phone from his beach in Greece either at the moment. Another rumour, Spurs have held talks with the New England Revolution about acquiring highly rated 17-year-old left-back Peyton Miller. That seems a little bit more on brand for Spurs and their kind of youth-based transfer strategy at the moment. I mentioned, didn't I, that Pedro Porro came out in support of Ange Postecoglou. He said this in a long-form interview with Sid Lowe in The Guardian, which is really worth reading, by the way. He says, Ange continuing would be good for the dressing room. He's built a very good group and coaches also need time too. In the league, things didn't go well, but he makes you win a trophy. That's important. I'm not going to lie. It did impact me to see people say they were going to sack him. I'm very close to him. He's been an important coach for me, and it's thanks to him that I brought out my best football these last 2 years. It's complicated because in football in general, things don't always depend on you. But honestly, in the team, I think, in my opinion, we're happy with him. So, Pedro Porro is certainly behind him. Porro was also asked about winning the Europa League. He said, it's been more than 40 years since a European trophy. People's reaction was lovely. When you get on the bus and go around London, you get a feel for how important it is. You change families' lives. They had suffered. We had suffered too inside, day by day. It's not just that Spurs' season had mostly been awful or that they hadn't won for almost 2 decades. It was that they had become a kind of running joke, a meme. That's just like people's opinion. Of course, that reaches you, but we don't care. Actually, in fact, I would say thanks to them because it can be extra motivation, petrol to fuel you, and we won. Let them talk and do all the memes they want now. And this is something I'm going to bring it back to Ange again. I think this is what Ange was brilliant at getting his hands around and pushing towards the players and saying, you can be the group who change this. You can be the group that changes Tottenham Hotspur. And just like when Harry Redknapp got us into the top 4 and then was ruthlessly sacked by Levy because he wanted to try someone who he saw as more of a winner in Andres Villas-Boas, you've got to realise how important these things are. The changing of the mentality, the changing of the whole atmosphere around the club. And that, I think, is what Ange has done. And that's what Porro is talking about here. Stopping Tottenham Hotspur from being a meme. Listen, take it from me. If you're watching my content, you'll see I'm basically at Arsenal fans every day in YouTube Shorts, on TikTok, on Instagram Reels at the moment, because this is the first time in so long where we're able to get at Woolwich Arsenal fans with what they've been saying against us. They're the biggest hypocrites ever. They were saying for years how it's all about trophies. We've won trophies since you have, so we're better than you, even though you finished second and third in the league, even though Pochettino plays a great brand of football. Well, now we can stuff their words right down their throats. We're enjoying it. But what Daniel Levy is doing right now is potentially taking that away from us. Because by sacking Ange, it would be the most Spurs thing to sack to sack the man who brought you that glory and brought you that opportunity to take the piss out of the people who've been taking the piss out of you. Porro goes on, when asked about the lads it's Tottenham meme, he says it was used. The coach said, yes, we're Tottenham. We have to believe we're a big team. Now people have to respect Tottenham a bit more because they're Europa League champions. The season had been really bad in the Prem, and winning a European title brought such happiness. The fans had suffered. We had suffered too. But it's not how it starts, it's how it ends. And I love that last line. That is like a last line straight out of the Ange playbook. It's not how it starts, it's how it ends. And it ended with us lifting a trophy. And the journey shouldn't end now either, I don't think. The journey should stay with Ange now. Rodrigo Bentancur was also asked this week about winning the Europa League. He said, before the final, you unconsciously said you had to stay calm. But it's tough to stay calm in a moment like that. It was my first European title. It was a return to victory with a club that hadn't won a cup in a long time. I enjoyed it to the fullest. I don't know. None of them are screaming, get the manager out, if you ask me. Kevin Danso has been asked this week on how it feels being at Tottenham. He says, I love it. I feel good. I always give my all. The fans love me. We do. I love Big Kev. Of course, the competition is fierce. That's normal at such a big club. I only arrived in the winter, but I'll fight for the badge. That's what we want to hear. Okay, finally, a bit of light relief. A picture from the Wales international camp yesterday showed that Brennan Johnson has got a Europa League tattoo on his, I think it's on his calf, kind of round by the back of his ankle. Good lad. Absolute legend, Brennan Johnson. All right, guys, that has been my Tottenham news. I'll be back tomorrow with more Tottenham transfer news and Premier League transfer news. But like I said, I woke up so annoyed about what is going on at Spurs and what we're not hearing about, the lack of communication. And I needed to talk to you guys about it. Let me know how you feel in the comments. Please, once again, if you haven't already, please do press like on this video. Please do subscribe to the channel for more Tottenham Hotspur content and transfer content from around the Premier League. And like I said, hoping to hear something soon. As soon as we do hear something about Ange Postecoglou, about the future of the club, I will get straight on live on YouTube and we can talk about it in real time. Come on, you Spurs.